it's Lisa. Today I have a two-page layout with a couple of portrait photos and then another one that is printed portrait, but it's actually 4 by 3 inch photos. And then I have one landscape photo that I'm going to use here. I'm going to do the same background but with a strip coming down here in a contrasting paper, and then do some matting to try to tie these two pages together. I decided when I started looking at the papers, I figured I would need a cardstock background. I went through my designer papers, and I very seldom buy two of the same sheet, and I just didn't have anything that really went with the collection I was choosing, but I thought black would be a good background for this. I don't do black very often, so it's a nice change for me. It also, this is a page about my mother's birthday, and this jacket that she's wearing I think is I believe that was a navy blue, but it came out pretty black in the photos and she wears a lot of black, so I think that'll work. It's also a good color to tie together some really dramatic busy papers, because I've got some pretty busy photos here with a lot of detail to them, and the collection I've chosen that goes really well with the photos and with the style that I'm looking to capture in this paper are also kind of busy and dramatic papers, so I think the black will sort of tie everything together. So this is a Spice Market collection from Basic Gray, so I need to pick one of these papers to be my mat around all the photos. I've got two different mats here, so I'm going to be working with the papers for that, and then I'll need one of these papers to kind of go as this band down the side here. So I'm not really sure which ones. We'll get to that in just a moment. I also would like to use out of the collection, I have these metal pieces that I took them out of the packaging a long time ago and I have still not used them, and I really like especially this red one. We'll just have to see which ones work, but I would like to use at least one of these on the layout, maybe more than one. They didn't include but one of each color, so I don't know if I want to mix them or just, you know, sort of save them as a special element for different pages. So right now I'm thinking about just one element of those per page. But I also have the stickers that go with this collection, and I think these two would go really well in this spot on the layout. There'll probably be something else going here too. I just hadn't decided when I did the sketch, and maybe some of the border stickers. I also have a chipboard. So I've got a lot of things to choose from using the collection, but right now I need to have a big enough piece to do this rather large mat that's got to go behind these photos and behind this one. When I print my sketches, they are 6 inches, so all I have to do is measure everything and double it, and this section here is about 4.5. This is about 9 inches wide by 3 3/4, 7.5. So when I do 9 by 7.5, that's going to take out a large piece of one of the papers. So ideally, I need a piece here that I can turn in different directions. And I was thinking about using this, but I don't think I could take this paper and have it do this side and then have enough left to go over here. So I'm going to have to do something that's more of an all-over print like this one. Some of these are just too busy. It's going to have to be one of the tone-on-tone or, you know, just one color prints. So there's a solid green here, but I don't think green's going to be a focus of this layout, although there are green plants, but there's not green in all of the photos. I think it's going to have to be one of these two for my big mat, and probably the red one, because I really like the red. I like the gold too. I think I really like the red one. And then I'll use one of the other papers for the smaller mat, maybe this black. Let me say, my mom wears a lot of black, and I could use it for the smaller mat for the two sides. And then I need a strip to come down through here, and that may be a great place for this paper that has kind of a vertical look to it. So I hadn't really thought this out when I started I was doing my sketch, you know, sort of on paper, just little scribbles, and then I put it in the computer, and it wasn't until I printed it out that I realized I needed two rather large pieces here, so I had to have a paper that would work. But this one, I think I can cut this piece out, and then I can turn the paper and do the mat over here, and it won't be that obvious that it's been turned. Let's hope not anyway. What I found when I started working out my measurements is that the 7.5 inch length that I have for the mat was just not going to work. It wasn't going to leave me enough paper. But if I cut it down to just 7 inches for the length of each mat, then I could get a 7 inch by 9 inch or so piece over on the left, and then I can turn the paper and still be 7 inches long on the right hand side, and then enough width there. So that worked, and you really can't tell that the papers have been turned. Now I like that one gold paper, but you're going to lose so much of it when turning it into a mat that I went to my stash and looked for some other gold papers that maybe has smaller print. And I have some My Mind's Eye, and then I had this basic gray collection. This is Persimmon, which was a fall collection, and there's kind of a solid gold there that I would have enough room to work with. And then there's also one that has these little arrows all over it, and it gives me a very fine small print that I thought worked really well for a mat, and I've got a full sheet of it, so I have plenty of it to cut into a smaller mat of gold to lay on top of the red print. Now, one of the papers that I found I just didn't have enough of was a My Mind's Eye print that from the Indie collection that worked beautifully with this, and what I'm going to use it for is to cover up some of the that bold design down there at the bottom. It has some blue and greens in it that I'm not really using in my color scheme, so I'm just going to take part of that stripe pattern from the Indie collection from My Mind's Eye and cover up the part of the bolder print that I don't really want to use. Then I'm starting to lay some things out. I haven't decided over there on the left if I want to put something in that corner, maybe some embossing. I'm also considered adding some strips here to my band in the middle, my vertical band. I really like the look of the strips, but they make the band kind of narrow. So then I started moving it out to see if I could just make the whole thing wider. The problem with that is that it pushes the layout to the far right edge of the paper, and it just really made it too unbalanced for me. It's already, you know, balanced a little bit more on the right than it is the left anyway. I briefly tried, you know, like moving one strip over so that the page would be divided there in that band, and I just didn't really care for that look. So that's just not going to work out to me. I just didn't care for the appearance of it. So I ended up dropping those bands. And I'm going to start to put my mat together here. I'm just laying all the pieces, even though they're going to be separated on the layout, beside of each other so that I can make sure that I have everything lined up together, as though it were one continuous piece, just divided by the vertical band. And I can glue the things on the right down. On the left, I'm not positive. I don't want to put something over on the lower left corner, so I'm not going to glue that one quite yet. But I am going to go ahead and glue the stuff on the right. And I'll just measure up and make sure that I get everything nice and even. I think having a black background is helping to balance this layout because there is so much stuff on the right side of the page. But because it's got such a dark layout background there, that the black color really adds a lot of weight to the lower left-hand side, and it may not need anything there. I'm just centering this piece across the vertical band. And part of it is going to end up over on the other page, and this is where I made a mistake. I cannot draw straight and I cannot cut straight, so I should have not cut that with scissors. If I'm just trimming something off, it's one thing, but to trim it off and then try to glue it on the other side did not work well. I should have taken it to the paper trimmer. That's what the paper trimmer is for, and it would have matched up really pretty. It's one of those, it just kept bugging me as I worked on the layout that I had done this, but once I got the page finished, I didn't notice it so much anymore, but I learned my lesson. I will not be lazy. I mean, the paper trimmer is right beside of me. You never see it on camera, but it's on a table right to my immediate right. Right, putting those stickers on there. And then I'm going to want something in the middle, I know. And I also want to use some of these metal pieces. I really like this red one up here. That also adds some balance to the page. Looking at some of the stickers, I considered doing border stickers vertically, but I didn't have enough of those, and and as we saw with the paper, it was just not going to work out so well. But I am trying one going across, and I wasn't too excited about that either, so I decided to save it for another project. I do have more stickers, including one that has some good words for the layout. Puts a little something else there over on the left-hand side. I have one about family I looked at using down there in the middle, and I decided it looked really good on the photo. I have a pretty sticker there. For a minute I didn't think things were centered right, but they are. And I do have a couple of other pieces of chipboard that I want to play around with here, trying to decide where they look the best. I'm about ready to glue those photos down. I have decided I'm not going to put anything else over on the left-hand side. I could do some embossing over there in the lower left-hand corner, but I think it's just going to take away from the rest of the page and the drama of things. I do feel like the page needs, though, another element of some kind to it. I kind of stood up and looked at it from above, and I think I laid it on the table or on the floor at one point just to make sure that I was happy with the appearance of it. I was just trying to get rid of that glare for you. But what I finally decided it needed was another type of texture. So I get some rhinestones out, and I'm going to put some of those over top of some of the stickers, and then I'll put something on one of those pieces of chipboard as well. These are just simple rhinestone brads. They happen to be Stampin' Up. I like elements like this because, you know, you can keep these things for years and use them on all kinds of different projects. And I felt like that I needed something in the middle, so I looked at my jewels. I have just some plain gold jewels is what I was going for, but I happen to have this, I don't remember what brand this was. It actually came from the dollar store. It's something that's supposed to be like a brad, but you just glue it on, which is perfect for what I have here on top of the chipboard. It has a little crown on it. So I have those, and I think that is it. So let's take a look at our sketch. I had to shorten this just a little bit to be able to get this out of one sheet of paper, and then put an extra strip of paper across here and some embellishment in the middle, a little bit more embellishment, just kind of subtle additions that added some layer to it. And then I ended up leaving this part blank, and I did leave off this strip on the side because it just I didn't really think it would add anything to it. So that is my page. It was fun to do. I need to erase that little pencil mark. I'll do that. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope you'll check out my blog. There is a class called 2-Page Terrific, so if you do a lot of 2-page layouts, I have a lot of other tips and styles for doing 2-pagers in that class. And it's a really good deal, over 2 hours of video and several sketches, so for a really good price. So check that out. Thanks so much. Bye.